So I got some buyers ready to come in and purchase this house right now, but before they do, they gotta do a final walkthrough. Now, stick around and find out. We're gonna tell you right now what is a final walkthrough. Come on, let's go. Hey everyone, Nick with the EB Group here. If you're enjoying our weekly videos, please give us a like, thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Leave us a comment below with what kind of videos you want to see next. We'd like to maybe hear back from you guys. If you are enjoying the videos, give us some feedback. What is something in real estate that you've been thinking about that maybe you don't have the answer to and you want us to make a video and answer that for you? Leave a comment below and we'll create a video for you guys. So in today's video, we're going to talk about, you guessed it, you heard it earlier, the final walkthrough. Not the final countdown, the final walkthrough, which could be the final countdown in the whole process. But we're just going to go over in general what it is and some tips and tricks, what that's involved in the whole process of the final walkthrough. So when it comes to the home buying process, the final walkthrough is a part of the closing process. And it can be a bit of a wild card sometimes. It could, it normally goes off without any kind of hitch or problems. It could actually cause a big headache for some buyers in the long run, if things aren't the way that they were in the original stage of the buying process. You could see maybe that the final walkthrough could cause some major problems. It could even kill the deal altogether, cause some major headaches if you don't deal with it properly. So while I have a quick minute while my buyers are outside, I'm going to just explain to you guys what is a final walkthrough. And if you don't know by now, a final walkthrough is an opportunity for the buyers, not sellers, the buyers during the closing process to walk through the home, inspect the home, and make sure everything's in the same kind of working condition as it was when they first walked through the house when they were looking to purchase a home. And usually it happens when the seller has already moved out and the buyers are coming in, walking through, and they want to make sure that everything is always in the same working condition as it was before when they first came through the house.
So in the excitement of closing on your new house, it can be easy to forget some stuff that should be done, such as making sure that the seller stuff is all out, the negotiated stuff that was in the contract, such as kitchen appliances and fixtures are still here. And to also make sure that the repairs that were negotiated on the contract are done.
Question, can you back out if you find an issue in the property at our final walkthrough? Can you back out of the deal?
Yes, and actually you can. If there is an issue that was negotiated and mutually agreed between buyer and seller, but it was not done, and you find out at the end when you're doing the final walkthrough, definitely needs to be told to the agent who is representing the seller, and the seller has to do his best or her best to make sure that is fixed, because the buyer in reality legally can back out if the repairs that were agreed to do were not done, right? So quick advice for the sellers, right?
Make sure that you do the repairs that were stated in the contract, because of course it's going to be a repair request form that you fill out between the buyer and the seller. So as a seller, you want to make sure that everything that was in the contract that was done, and to keep it to be safe, you want to keep the receipts of any work that was done, or get it in writing saying I had a handyman that did this or this, and then an inspection, they come and check it at the final walkthrough.
Correct, yeah. It's always a great idea, especially for you, my dear home sellers, to go back to the contract and review it with your agent and make sure that those things that were said on the contract at the end, before closing of escrow, are done. Also, along the process of escrow, when the buyer negotiated with you those items that they were asking to be repaired, make sure that those things were done. It's going to save you a huge delay at the end when you are about to close escrow. It's going to delay on you getting your net proceeds out of the sale of the property, and it's gonna bring to get a happy buyer at the end, right? Because you did your part to get it closed.
Right. Yeah. Another thing as a seller to prepare for the buyers to come in and do their final walkthrough would be to make sure that you have taken everything out and have left the house as clean as possible. You don't have to hire a professional cleaner to come and clean, but as long as you can sweep and vacuum, I think that would be good. That's common courtesy. I think it's nice, appreciated by the buyer.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, as a home seller, you want to make sure that is done. I'm pretty sure the buyers will appreciate that a lot. Also, talking about fixtures in the property, as you can see that chandelier right here. This is a fixture which is attached to the structure of the property, right? It's attached to the ceiling. So if you are thinking of taking that with you, you have to, put that in writing or something in the contract. So that's just an example that, if there are any other items that you want to take with you, just make sure that the buyer understands, not only verbally, but also in writing, right?
Right, yeah. Yeah, a lot of times if the buyer comes in and sees, like this is gorgeous, it would be a selling point. So if they come in and do the final walkthrough that's missing, they're gonna be disappointed and want to back out,
Right, then the refrigerator, if it is staying in the house, not most of the times, but there's been the times that, you get to the property, you are in the final walkthrough, you open the refrigerator, and then you find out that there is food in it, right? That has been there for days, if they move a while back, or, you just make sure that you do your own checklist to clean the house as well, before you turn the keys back to the buyer.
And another thing you guys want to make sure you guys are doing on your final walkthrough is just making sure everything is working. Things like electricity, gas, water, and appliances. So for example, if you were to walk through the kitchen, you would just take a look at the dishwasher. Just make sure everything's running. If it wasn't working during the inspection, that would be a good time to make sure things are working. Another thing you want to make sure you check is the water. Let it run for a while. Check on the bottom. Make sure there's no leaks. Because that would be a problem, and if you close escrow before you check of any of these things, you're gonna have less leverage. Another thing you can do is just bring your iPhone or your Android charger, plug it in the outlet just to make sure the electricity is working. Check all the light switches, and once we close escrow, then it's gonna get a lot more difficult to start negotiating repairs if they are needed. So just make sure you're present at final walkthrough and you're making sure everything is how it's supposed to be. And a quick tip for the bathroom is checking for water damage. Believe it or not, a lot of times there is water damage that might be missed by the inspector. So this is a good opportunity to check for yourself. You can also check for leaks. Same way that we did in the kitchen. You simply check inside, just make sure there's no leaks, there's no problems. Another thing to check is going to be the AC and the heating, and just making sure that stuff is working. And if we do spot any problems, of course we can go straight to the seller and start negotiating on their behalf as well. Make sure your toilets are flushing, there's no cloggish, because those things can definitely cause a lot of damage to your plumbing. So it's quite simple. Just make sure everything is flushing. We're good here. Make sure whatever property you guys are closing on, you guys are doing the same thing. And another thing you guys want to do is sound small, but in the final walkthrough, you want to make sure you're taking advantage of everything in your favor. So even check the windows, make sure the locks are working, they're closing properly, they're closing easily. That's just one quick tip for you guys. Make sure you guys are testing out your bathtubs as well. Oftentimes in the bathroom, especially the bathtub, you want to check for molding and excessive rust. Those are things you guys have to keep your eye on. If there is molding issues and rust issues, of course, we can leverage that when we go back to the seller. And at the end of the day, the EB group, we just want to make sure you as the seller or you as the buyer are well taken care of. Escrow is already a long enough process, especially with the nerves that come around during this time. So we just want to make sure the time is as short as possible and it goes as efficiently as possible. So we're going to talk about a few more things while we walk around in the property. One thing you guys have noticed is going to be how clean the property is. So that's another thing you want to look at in your during your final walkthrough. Obviously, don't be too picky, but if the home is excessively dirty, you have every right to have that clean prior to you moving in. Another thing you guys want to maybe take a look at is just the condition of the walls, the floor, the railing. Pretty much anything your eye can see is what you want to pay attention to. The inspector has taken care of the things that we cannot see, such as the piping, the roof, things like that. That's things that the inspector has taken care of. Now you as the buyer or the seller have the responsibility of making sure everything else is fine, just to quicken your process as much as possible. Now on the outside, it's always good to take a look at the roof. Obviously, we're not going to do as good as a job as the inspector did on the report, but we can just get a good idea on what we can see. That's our responsibility. So looking here, everything looks fine. Another thing to keep an eye out is going to be excessive termite damage. Now, almost every home has some degree of termite damage. It's just a matter of fact if it's excessive or not. So we're going to just be looking at the wooden portions of the property, such as the window frames, the beams, and we're going to make sure we inspect that and everything else that we see that's wooden on the property. Another thing, if your property has a pool like this one, it's always good to make sure that you don't see any damage in the pool, such as a leak or anything of that nature. If the water is excessively dirty, that's something to definitely get back to the seller with that and find out exactly what's going on. Oftentimes it's just not maintained properly, but lack of maintenance can lead to damage for your pool, so just keep an eye out for that.
And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and here are the tips.
Smash the button.